The skies burned red and orange as Captain Elias Reed struggled with the controls of the failing spacecraft, the Celestial Nomad. Warning alarms blared throughout the cockpit, echoing the chaos that had unfolded in the last 45 minutes. The ship was going down, fast. Systems failing. Initiating emergency protocols. The ship's AI, Vera, announced in her calm, synthesized voice. Elias gripped the controls tighter, his knuckles white. Vera, reroute all available power to the thrusters and life support. How many passengers are still on board? Scanning. 20 life forms detected, excluding yourself, Captain Reed. All passengers are accounted for in the escape pod bay. The ship shuddered violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Outside the reinforced windows, the serene void of space gave way to the fiery embrace of atmospheric reentry. Brace for impact. Everyone, brace for impact. Elias's voice carried over the ship's intercom. In the escape pod bay, a diverse group of alien diplomats, from the aquatic Illyrian princess to the feathered Sci-Fi envoy, hurried into their designated safety pods. Unlike them, Elias remained at the helm, determined to see the landing through. The ground approached fast, a vast expanse of untamed wilderness sprawling beneath them. With a deafening crash that tore through the hull of the Celestial Nomad, Elias felt the world go black. Groaning, Elias awoke amidst the twisted wreckage of his ship. His head throbbed painfully, a testament to the crash's brutality. Blinking against the sunlight, he surveyed the damage. The front of the spacecraft was crumpled like paper, and smoldering pieces littered the landscape. Staggering to his feet, he activated his communicator. Vera, report. Static crackled over the line for a moment before Vera responded. Life support systems are offline. Hull integrity compromised. However, the escape pods were ejected successfully prior to impact. Elias sighed in relief, then turned as he heard a series of soft thuds nearby. The sound of escape pods opening. One by one, the alien passengers emerged, blinking in the unfamiliar light of the new world. Lyriel, her luminous skin glowing softly, approached Elias. Her voice, melodic yet concerned, filled the air. Captain Reed, are we safe now? What is this place? This is an uninhabited planet in the Verdant system. We're off course and, I must admit, thoroughly stranded. But alive, thanks to the escape pods. Elias tried to offer a reassuring smile. Zara, with her imposing stature and vibrant plumage, stepped forward. Alive, yes. But for how long, Captain? We must think of shelter, food, survival. Elias nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Right. First, we need to assess our supplies and any usable technology from the wreckage. Then, shelter and water. Can I count on your help? A murmur of assent passed through the group. Anara, a tech-savvy delegate from a robotic civilization, stepped up. I will assess the technology. There might be something salvageable that could aid us. Excellent. Zara, Lyriel, would you help me scout the area for water sources and possible shelter? Both nodded, their expressions resolute. The group split up, each member motivated by a shared desire to survive the predicament they found themselves in. As they worked, Elias couldn't help but feel a spark of admiration for the resilience and unity displayed by his unexpected crew. Stranded on an uninhabited planet with 20 stunning alien beauties after a crash, the challenge was immense, but not insurmountable. And in that moment, Elias knew that their survival depended not just on him, but on each of them working together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the alien landscape, Elias and his crew gathered around a makeshift campfire made from debris and dried plant matter they had found nearby. The flickering flames provided a small comfort against the chill of the unfamiliar planet's night. Elias sat on a flattened hull panel, maps and digital scanners spread out before him. Beside him, Lyriel and Zara were engaged in a deep discussion about the local flora and fauna they had encountered while scouting. So, you're saying these plants could be edible? Elias asked, picking up a luminescent leaf that Lyriel held. Lyriel nodded, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the leaf. Yes, but we should test them for safety. My people have methods to determine the edibility of unknown flora. Zara, ever the pragmatist, chimed in. I spotted a stream to the west. Fresh water is crucial, but we'll need to check for contaminants. Anara, who had been tinkering with a salvaged communicator, looked up. I may have something that can help with both tasks. This scanner can analyze chemical compositions. It's damaged but functional. Elias grinned, relieved. Great work, Anara. Let's prioritize water and food testing tomorrow. For tonight, let's secure the perimeter and set up a watch schedule. We're not familiar with this planet's predators. As they organized their evening duties, another crew member, Kreth, a towering figure with a keen sense of night vision, volunteered for the first watch. I can see in the dark almost as well as in daylight. I'll take the first shift. Thank you, Kreth. We all appreciate it, Elias responded, feeling a growing sense of camaraderie among the group. Later, as the others settled down for the night, Elias took a moment to talk with Anara privately. How are you holding up? This is all a bit beyond our original mission parameters. Anara's mechanical eyes flickered softly. I am functioning within acceptable parameters, Elias. However, I am concerned about the morale of biological crew members. This situation is taxing. Elias nodded thoughtfully. We'll get through this, Anara. We have a strong group here. Tomorrow, we'll start testing the food and water. With basics secured, we can start thinking about long-term survival. Anara tilted her head. A gesture Elias had learned meant agreement among her kind. Indeed, Captain. Rest well. Tomorrow will require all of your energy. With a plan in place, Elias felt a cautious optimism. As he lay back against his makeshift bed, he thought about the diverse group that fate had thrown together. Each individual brought unique strengths to the table, and their combined talents gave them a real shot at not just surviving, but perhaps even thriving in this unexpected wilderness. As the stars shone brightly above, the alien planet didn't seem quite so hostile anymore. The morning brought with it a renewed sense of purpose. Elias, alongside Lyriel, Zara, and Anara, stood surveying a clearing near the stream Zara had discovered. The area was protected by natural rock formations and dense foliage, providing both shelter and strategic visibility. We could build here, Elias suggested, pointing to the space between two large boulders. These rocks could serve as natural walls, and we can construct roofs with materials from the ship. Lyriel nodded, her eyes scanning the surroundings. It's open enough for sunlight, crucial for some of us who thrive on light. Plus, the proximity to water is optimal. Zara, her feathers ruffling slightly in the breeze, added, I'll start gathering the larger debris from the crash for the framework. We'll need strong supports if we're to create anything lasting. Anara, meanwhile, was already pulling up schematics on a handheld device. I've identified composite materials in the wreckage that can be repurposed. I can guide the construction to optimize thermal insulation and durability. As they divided tasks, Elias turned to the others who had gathered. We'll need teams for gathering, building, and foraging. Let's keep busy and focused. Kreth and a few others joined Zara in collecting debris, using their strength to haul twisted sheets of metal and large panels back to the camp. Meanwhile, Lyriel organized a group to start clearing the ground and preparing it for construction. Elias found himself working closely with Anara, marking out the layout of their new shelter. How long do you think this will hold? He asked, driving stakes into the ground to outline the foundation. Anara assessed the structure with a critical eye. If constructed as planned, it should withstand local weather conditions. However, ongoing maintenance will be necessary. The work was hard, but as the structure began to take shape, so did their spirits lift. They worked through the day, only stopping as the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of gold and purple. That looks like a job well done, Elias said, stepping back to admire their handiwork. The basic frame of their shelter stood firm, with compartments for sleeping and storage, and a communal area for eating and meeting. Lyriel joined him, wiping sweat from her brow. It's more than I hoped for on our first day. Tonight, we can sleep with a roof over our heads. Zara walked over, her expression one of satisfaction. And tomorrow, we fortify and expand. But for tonight, we celebrate our progress. The group gathered around their usual spot by the fire, sharing food they had prepared from their rations and the edible plants Lyriel had confirmed as safe. Laughter and conversation filled the air, a stark contrast to the silence of the uninhabited planet. As the fire crackled, Elias leaned back, looking around at the faces illuminated by the flames. We may be far from home, and this may not be the mission we planned for, but here we are, making the best of what we've got. This shelter, it's a start, a good start. Lyriel smiled, her eyes reflecting the firelight. With every sunrise, we build more than just survival. We build a community. Their first night in the new shelter brought a sense of security they hadn't felt since before the crash. As Elias drifted to sleep, the sound of gentle breathing around him confirmed that they were, in their own way, starting to adapt to their new life on the alien planet. Elias woke early, the light of dawn casting a soft glow through the makeshift shelter. Today's agenda was crucial, securing a reliable food source. He stepped outside, where a few of the crew were already preparing for the day. "Morning, Elias," Zara greeted him, her feathered limbs adjusting the straps on a homemade pack. "Ready to see what this planet has to offer?" "Definitely," Elias replied, grabbing his own gear. "We can't live off emergency rations forever. Let's see what we can find." Nearby, Kreth was sharpening a spear-like tool he had fashioned from the wreckage. "I've spotted tracks by the riverbank. Larger game, possibly. Worth investigating." Elias nodded in agreement. "Let's split into 2 teams then. Zara, you and Kreth take the riverbank. Lyriel, Anara, and I will check the forested area for edible plants and smaller game. We'll meet back here by midday." The teams set off in their respective directions, the forest team moving quietly under the towering alien canopy. Anara, equipped with her scanner, led the way. This device can analyze organic compounds. "It will tell us if something is safe to eat," Anara explained, stopping to scan a cluster of bright blue fruits. Lyriel watched the device's screen intently. "What does it say?" Anara's eyes lit up, a good sign. "Edible. High in fructose and water content. These will be good for hydration." Elias plucked one of the fruits, examining its smooth texture. "Good find, Anara. Let's collect as much as we can carry." Meanwhile, along the riverbank, Zara and Kreth moved stealthily. Zara's eyes were trained on the ground, following the tracks that Kreth had mentioned. "These lead to a clearing up ahead," Kreth whispered, his large form surprisingly silent in the dense underbrush. As they approached the clearing, they spotted a group of medium-sized quadrupedal creatures, their scales shimmering in the morning light. Zara raised her hand, signaling Kreth to hold position. "Let's try to get closer. We need to observe their behavior before attempting a catch," Zara murmured, her experience as a hunter invaluable in this new environment. Back in the forest, Elias's team had gathered a substantial amount of edible fruits and were now looking for protein sources. Lyriel, who had been quiet, suddenly stopped. "Look up there," she said, pointing to a tree where a nest sat. Inside, a couple of small, rodent-like creatures chirped. Elias checked with Anara, who quickly scanned the creatures from a distance. "Also edible, but we'll need to be cautious. They're fast, and their bite could be venomous." Using a combination of nets and some clever distractions devised by Lyriel, they managed to secure a couple of the creatures without harm to either party. By midday, both teams returned to camp, their bounty in tow. Zara and Kreth had managed to catch one of the larger creatures, ensuring meat for the group. Elias and Zara laid out their finds, and the group gathered around to discuss their findings. "We've got fruits, some rodent-like creatures, and Zara's catch. It's a good start," Elias announced. Kreth nodded, his deep voice rumbling. "The creature is similar to aquatic life on my planet. It should provide nourishment for several days." Anara interjected, "I suggest cooking everything thoroughly. We must be cautious with alien biology." "That's on the agenda for tonight," Elias confirmed. "A feast, then. Our first real meal on this planet." As they prepared the food, the mood was light. Stories of home mixed with laughter, and despite the uncertainty of their situation, there was a palpable sense of community and accomplishment. They had not only survived, they had begun to thrive. As twilight descended upon the planet, casting the landscape into shades of purple and silver, Elias and the crew finished their meal around the newly established fire pit, a central point in their makeshift camp. That was surprisingly good, Elias commented, tossing a cleaned bone into the fire, the remnants of their day's successful hunt. Lyriel, sitting across from him, her features illuminated by the firelight, smiled. Your planet's method of seasoning is quite effective. It enhanced the flavors well. Glad you liked it, Elias replied, feeling a connection to this strange new world through the simple act of sharing a meal. Anara, who had been monitoring the environmental data, spoke up. According to my calculations, tonight we will experience the alignment of the planet's twin moons. It will be quite a sight. Sounds like a perfect time for some stargazing, suggested Kreth, his large eyes reflecting the fire's glow. Let's do it, Elias agreed, rising to his feet. A little relaxation after today's work could do us all some good. The group moved away from the light of the fire to a nearby clearing where the open sky stretched wide above them. As they settled down on the soft, moss-like ground, the twin moons began their slow dance across the sky, their light casting an ethereal glow over everything. It's beautiful, murmured Zara, her feathers subtly shifting colors under the moonlight. Makes you think of the bigger picture, doesn't it? Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars. It does. Back home, looking up at the sky always gave me perspective. It's no different here, even millions of miles away from Earth. Lyriel moved closer to Elias, her curiosity evident. Tell us more about Earth. What is it like, living among your kind? Elias turned to her, the soft moonlight highlighting her curious expression. Earth is vibrant and diverse. Deserts, mountains, oceans, all teeming with life. And the people are just as varied. But what brings us together is our ability to share and appreciate moments like this one. As they shared stories of their respective worlds, Elias and Lyriel's hands slowly found each other, fingers tentatively intertwining. The simple touch bridged the vast expanse of cultural and biological differences between them, offering comfort and connection. Your world sounds wonderful, Lyriel said softly, squeezing his hand gently. I hope to see it one day. Elias squeezed back, his heart light. And I yours. There's so much we can learn from each other. Their conversation drifted from dreams of visiting distant worlds to the more immediate realities of their current situation. As the night deepened, they discussed potential strategies for exploration and resource gathering, each crew member contributing their perspective. Anara, always practical, suggested, we should consider mapping the area more extensively. We've barely scratched the surface of what this planet has to offer. Kreth agreed, adding, I can take the lead on the exploration. My night vision will be advantageous. And I'll compile a database of all the plant life we encounter, Lyriel added. There might be medicinal properties we can utilize. Elias listened to the exchange, pride swelling in his chest. They were no longer just survivors but a team, each leveraging their strengths to forge a path forward. As the meeting wound down, Elias and Lyriel lingered in the clearing, the rest of the crew heading back to camp. Elias, Lyriel said quietly, today was a good day. I feel hopeful about our future here. Me too, Elias replied, looking up at the star-filled sky. Together, I think there's nothing we can't handle. They sat in silence, comforted by each other's presence and the tranquil beauty of the night. The twin moons continued their celestial journey, witnesses to the burgeoning bond between human and alien, their light a silent promise of the new beginnings that lay ahead. The next morning, Elias awoke feeling an unfamiliar peace, the early rays of the planet's sun filtering softly through the canopy above their shelter. He stretched, his thoughts lingering on the night before, on the stories shared and the subtle yet profound connection he felt growing with Lyriel. After a light breakfast of local fruits, Elias pulled Lyriel aside. Could we take a walk? There's something about this place, calm and serene. I think it helps clear the mind. Lyriel nodded, her face brightening. I would like that. The northern ridge offers a beautiful view of the valley. We could go there. As they walked, the forest around them teemed with life, unfamiliar calls and vibrant plants filling their senses. They reached the ridge, the valley sprawling below them bathed in the light of the twin suns. It's beautiful, Elias remarked, gazing out over the landscape. It makes you appreciate the quieter moments. Lyriel stood close, her presence comforting. On my world, we believe that beauty is essential to understanding the universe. It teaches us about harmony and balance. Do humans believe something similar? Elias thought for a moment before answering. Some do. There's a lot of diversity in beliefs, but I think many appreciate beauty for how it can bring peace, even if just for a moment. Their conversation drifted to deeper topics, each opening up about their fears and aspirations. Elias shared his uncertainties about their situation, about being a leader so far from home. Lyriel listened intently, then shared her own vulnerabilities. In my culture, leaders are revered not just for their strength, but for their ability to connect deeply with others. You have that ability, Elias. It's in your nature to care, to unite. It's what will help us all get through this. Elias felt a warmth spread through him, buoyed by her words. Thank you, Lyriel. That means a lot coming from you. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the light shift over the valley. Eventually, Elias turned to Lyriel, his decision clear. I want to try to make this work. Not just surviving here, but really making a life. At least for as long as we need to. With you. Lyriel's expression softened, her hand reaching out to his. I feel the same. There's something special here, Elias. Something worth exploring. Their hands linked, and slowly, naturally, they leaned towards each other, their first kiss a gentle acknowledgement of the bond forming between them. It was a kiss of mutual respect and emerging affection, a promise made without words. After a moment, they parted slightly, smiles on their faces. We should head back, Lyriel said, a playful glint in her eye. There's much to do, and we have plans to make. Right, Elias agreed, feeling a new energy about their return. Let's go back and share some of this hope with the others. As they walked back, their conversation turned to practical matters, plans for further exploration, improving their living conditions, and utilizing the natural resources around them. They arrived back at camp to find the others already busy at work, and Elias shared their ideas, which were met with enthusiasm. The group's morale seemed lifted by the leaders' evident camaraderie and vision, and as they discussed their next steps, Elias felt an unprecedented optimism. They were more than just survivors now. They were pioneers on a new world, building a community together. This feeling of unity, spurred by the bond he and Lyriel had formed, seemed to permeate the entire camp, giving everyone a renewed purpose and vigor. The days that followed were marked by a flurry of activity. The camp had evolved into a makeshift village, with designated areas for food preparation, sleeping quarters, and even a communal space for meetings and leisure. Elias found himself at the center of this development, coordinating efforts and ensuring everyone's needs were met. One morning, Elias and Anara stood over the remnants of the ship's communication console, which had been retrieved from the wreckage and was now partially reconstructed in a tent that served as their tech hub. Do you think it's possible to get it working again? Elias asked, wiping his brow. The sun was particularly intense that day, and the tent did little to shield them from the heat. Anara's fingers flew over the exposed wires and circuit boards. I'm optimistic. If I can bypass the damaged subsystems and reroute power from the solar panels we set up, we might be able to send out a distress signal. Elias nodded, impressed as always by Anara's skill. Let me know the moment you have something. I'll prepare a message to send. As Anara worked, Elias drafted a message on his tablet, summarizing their situation and location. He knew the chances of a passing ship receiving their signal were slim, but the act of sending it out gave them a tangible goal. Later that day, as the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows over the camp, Anara called Elias over the radio. Elias, come to the tech hub. I have good news. Elias's heart raced as he made his way to Anara. The crew, sensing something significant, followed him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and cautious hope. Inside the tent, Anara stood with a grin, a rare expression for her. I've managed to stabilize the power supply. We're ready to send the signal. Elias clapped Anara on the shoulder, a gesture of gratitude and respect. Well done, Anara. Let's do this. Gathering the crew around, Elias activated the console, inputting the coordinates and the message. With a deep breath, he pressed the transmit button. A soft hum filled the tent, and then, a light on the console blinked green. It's done, Elias announced, turning to face the crew. Our signal is out there. Now, we wait and continue to survive, continue to thrive. Cheers broke out among the group, and Elias felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him. They were still stranded, but now they had reached out across the stars for help. That night, as Elias lay in his quarters, unable to sleep, Lyriel joined him, her presence instantly soothing. "You've done well, Elias," she said softly. "Everyone feels it. You've given us a chance." Elias turned to her, taking her hand. "We did this together. And whatever comes next, we'll face it together too." Lyriel nodded, squeezing his hand. Together. The next few weeks were a time of anxious waiting mixed with determined preparation. Elias and the crew continued to improve their living conditions, strengthening their shelters and expanding their food sources. They organized scouting missions to explore further into the planet, each time discovering new resources that could benefit their community. Every evening, Elias and Anara would check the communication console, waiting for a reply to their distress signal, but none came. Yet, the absence of a response did not dampen their spirits. They had each other, and they had built something meaningful on this once uninhabited planet. Their routine was disrupted one morning when Anara rushed into Elias's shelter, her eyes wide with excitement. "Elias, you need to see this. We've picked up a signal. It's weak, but it's there. Someone received our message." Elias leaped up, a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. "Let's go, Anara. Show me." As the crew gathered once more around the console, Anara adjusted the settings, and a crackling voice came through the speakers, speaking in a language they didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. Their message had been heard. Someone, somewhere, was trying to communicate. Elias looked around at the hopeful faces of his crew, their unity and hard work culminating in this moment of connection. No matter what came next, they had already achieved something incredible. They had turned a desperate situation into a story of survival and solidarity. The camp buzzed with activity and anxious excitement following the receipt of the incoming signal. Everyone gathered around Anara and Elias, who were busy adjusting the console, trying to enhance the clarity of the transmission. "Can we respond? Tell them where we are," Lyriel asked, her voice a mix of hope and nervousness. Elias nodded, focusing on the controls. "We're trying. The signal is weak, and it's hard to pinpoint its origin, but we'll get something back to them." Anara's fingers moved deftly, tweaking dials and rerouting power. "I'm setting up a repeating message with our coordinates. It'll keep broadcasting as long as we have power." The crew waited in tense silence, their eyes fixed on the console. After several long minutes, the crackling static cleared slightly, and a voice emerged, speaking in Galactic Standard. "Unidentified crew, your distress signal received. Prepare for rescue operation. Please confirm readiness and survival status." Elias grabbed the microphone, his heart racing. "This is Captain Elias Reed of the research vessel Celestial Nomad. We have 20 survivors, all in good health. We are prepared for rescue. Awaiting instructions." The response was immediate, a clear indication that their message had been understood. "Acknowledged, Captain Reed. Rescue shuttle dispatched. ETA 3 days. Maintain signal and prepare for extraction." Cheers erupted in the camp, and Elias felt a wave of relief wash over him. They were going home. He turned to the group, a smile spreading across his face. "We did it, everyone. Help is on the way." The next 3 days were a flurry of preparation. The crew packed their belongings, dismantled parts of the camp, and discussed their experiences. Despite the joy of rescue, many expressed a bittersweet feeling about leaving the planet that had become their unexpected home. On the evening before the rescue shuttle's expected arrival, Elias and Lyriel took a walk to the ridge where they had shared many conversations. "It's strange," Elias said, looking out over the valley. "I thought I'd feel only relief, but there's a part of me that will miss this place." Lyriel nodded, her hand finding his. "We've all grown in ways we couldn't have anticipated. This planet, our efforts, it's bonded us in unique ways." "That's true," Elias replied. "And it's given us a perspective we can take back with us. What we've learned here, it's invaluable." As they returned to camp, the crew gathered for one final meal together. The atmosphere was festive yet reflective. as each person shared a memory or a lesson they'd taken from their time on the planet. The following morning, as the first light of dawn crept across the sky, the sound of a shuttle breaking through the atmosphere stirred everyone from their tents. They watched, some with tears, others with smiles, as the rescue shuttle landed smoothly on the clearing near their camp. Rescue workers disembarked, greeting Elias and his crew with professional efficiency, but also with evident respect after hearing of their survival story. Elias was the last to board the shuttle, taking one final look around the camp. He felt an undeniable connection to this wild, beautiful place that had tested and ultimately revealed the strength of their spirits. As the shuttle ascended, leaving the planet behind, Elias thought about the future. They were returning to their old lives, but they were all undeniably changed. They had faced the unknown together and emerged not just unscathed but enriched. The shuttle climbed higher, and the planet that had been their home receded into the blackness of space. Elias watched until it was nothing more than a speck of light among the stars. He turned away finally, ready to face whatever came next, carrying with him the memories of a profound journey and the promise of new beginnings.